It's in that sweet spot of like, this happened within everyone's memory or many people's memory.
Oh, good point. Yes.
And it was big enough that, even someone who didn't follow heard something about people being angry about it. Everyone, and welcome back to No Script, an unscripted conversation about theater's best scripts. I'm Jackson, that's Jacob, and we are underway into this 15th season. Here we are on episode 3, but welcome to anyone who is not listening along in the order of the season as well. We are excited, though, to be engaging another great play this week, now fully underway within this season. Today we're talking about King James by Rajiv Joseph.
Yes, I'm very excited to be here. Very excited to be discussing this play. This is a basketball play, and I am just an enormous NBA fan. I love basketball. I also love the sports culture that this play in some ways documents, the way in which having a team, having a take on your team, the arguments, the ups and the downs kind of define like a way of being and relating to certain people. This is a buddy play. This is a two-hander. This is four great scenes in this play. Just a delightful play to come across.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I'm glad that you are a fan of basketball because you'll hold down that wing of our conversation.
I can give
today.
us the basketball history if we feel at any point that it's relevant.
Well, it might be relevant because this play definitely deals with whatever it is, 16 or so years of basketball history.
Yes, it tracks. The reason why it's called King James, if you're out there and you don't know, and I have some thoughts and questions about the title for a later time, but it is called that because it's a play that tracks in a very micro way the career of LeBron James as it relates to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so the play is in 4 scenes, and each of the scene is a different major moment in LeBron James' relationship with the city of Cleveland and the basketball team. Now, LeBron is not a character. This is about 2 friends who are Cleveland Cavaliers fans. Jackson, of course, will give us a wonderful synopsis, I'm sure. But the moves that LeBron makes that are famous, I mean, they are famous parts of NBA history given the status of someone like LeBron James, are tracked across the course of 4 scenes here.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So it's like a big sort of uber meta thing is happening around the lives of kind of the micro lives of these characters, but then they also have meta levels that are happening as well. It's super well woven. Excited for the chat as we kind of delve into a play that has a lot of like storylines that it's tracking.
Yeah, and just because it doesn't have much to do with the play, really, maybe I'll just do my title pondering for you, Jackson, now. I don't know what you knew or didn't know about this play. This is a play that I knew it had been recommended to me. I knew it when it had premiered at Steppenwolf, which we'll talk about in a minute. But so I knew that it was about LeBron James up front. I didn't know the plot or anything like that. It's my first time reading the play. But I knew up front that it was about LeBron James. So the title, King James, I knew what that meant. I don't know what interaction you had with the play, but, King James is not like that. It also has other meanings.
There's another famous King James. So, yeah, for sure. I mean, by the first page, I figured out what we were talking about. But yeah,
it's interesting because it's memorable and it's descriptive, and so those are things that I really value in titles, and it's evocative. So in some ways, it meets all that, but it does have this interesting, like, if you didn't know that the play was about LeBron James, and you just like, I often read reviews, and then sometimes an interesting way to find like local conversation about plays these days is on Reddit. Like, people post about plays. And so on Reddit, there were quite a few people in the comments who really didn't know and were very confused. Now maybe they didn't see a production. They picked up the script off the shelf or something. They're like, I thought this was going to be kind of a stoogey play about religion or the Bible or something like that. But it's a very fresh, contemporary, very hip play, including there's a DJ that's sort of part of the experience about NBA basketball, which is not like, you don't really get that association from like the King James Bible.
Right, for sure. Yeah, no, that could easily be misconstrued. Certainly the production art that goes out with this, I
you'd wanna
think,
do
sort of
some
helps you
marketing.
out. But if you were like grabbing the dramatist play service version that has no picture on the front or something
Right.
like that,
Yes,
it would be
right,
like,
right.
oh
The
wait,
acting
oh
edition, yes.
now you catch up. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course our scripts are just, they have just the title page on it, so we only catch a little
Right.
bit. So very interesting. I'm fascinated by titles, as longtime listeners know. I'm very judgy of titles. This one is a rare one where my opinion is sort of strongly swayed in different directions. It meets the things that I love, and also I find it a little odd in some ways. It's very cool though. I'm very excited. Well, before we talk too much more about the script, let me invite you to head on over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/noscriptpodcast, all one word, no hyphens, no underscores. Over there is where you can become a supporter of the show. You subscribe to a monthly tier. That's how Patreon works. Our tiers, the lowest tier, just $1 a month. It's been that way. It will continue to be that way. Even the $1 a month, $12 over the course of the year, super valuable to us. We love to do this podcast. We've had great conversations, read great plays, had great conversations with awesome guests. It's just so awesome, but we can't do it without the financial support of listeners like you. And so please, if that's not you yet, if you haven't become a patron or checked it out over at Patreon, just think about it. Head on over, look over what we got there. One of the great perks of being a patron is we think much more forward thinking about what plays are coming up in the season, and patrons get early looks at that, and we oftentimes then end up with great conversations in emails or social media with patrons who know the plays that are coming up. Just a great little community over there. Check it out. Again, lowest tier is just $1 a month. If you are a supporter, huge thank you. This episode, like all of our episodes, is only possible because of you. Please, 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 that's not you. Patreon.com/noscriptpodcast. And now back to the script.
There we go.
So, interesting sort of note about this play in its inception as we start through our kind of context and look. Rajiv Joseph, famously because of this play, is a Cleveland native. Rajiv Joseph also grew up to become a screenwriter, which is relevant to one of the characters in this play. And so Rajiv's particular, I guess you would call it like a unique familiarity with Cleveland basketball culture, with what that team means to the city of Cleveland, to the state of Ohio more broadly. And because of that, with what LeBron James means to Cleveland locals, especially Ohioans more broadly. I mean, that is a fraught and a complicated relationship because of the status and the talent of LeBron, what it meant for LeBron to come into the league and then to come in to the hometown team. I mean, LeBron, of course, from Akron, Ohio. If you don't know the LeBron James story, even as a high school basketball player, it was clear LeBron James was going to be one of the best basketball players of all time. He did not go to college. He was one of the few basketball players in a very particular era that was drafted right out of high school, and he was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers, the team from Ohio, where he grew up. And then, of course, the longer LeBron James' career happens, I won't go into it all right now, but you can see why the relationship between Cleveland and LeBron is this thing that is very layered and very complex. And so this play being written by not only Rajiv Joseph, one of my favorite playwrights and just a tremendously good playwright, but also from Cleveland. I mean, I think that is a reason, if you're looking for a reason to pick up this play, that might be one. To read a play by an exceptionally good playwright who is exceptionally well invested in the culture. Rajiv Joseph is a sports fan. He talks about his love for this kind of a thing. So great playwright, great cultural knowledge of a major American cultural event. Those things, you do not always get all those things in one package. And I think that is really impressive. And then, of course, there's all the other things the play is investigating. I will say up front, I don't actually think it's really a play about LeBron James or basketball. But it is the backdrop, and the backdrop is so exceptionally well fleshed out because of his particular lived history, where he grew up, and his investment in sports culture more broadly. This is, I will say, as I dive into productions here, I was surprised by the incredibly robust production life of this play. This play was commissioned by Steppenwolf Theater Company and Center Theater Group, and in a co-production at Steppenwolf and then later at the Mark Taper Forum in Los Angeles. It had its world premiere. This was in 2022, spring 2022. It was at Steppenwolf, and then that summer it went to the Mark Taper Forum in Los Angeles. This world premiere directed by perhaps my favorite director to bring up, which is the incredible, amazing, famous Kenny Leone. Kenny Leone has done so much work to bring new American plays to life, and for him to be part of the history of this play, I'm just very excited by. That production then eventually transfers to the Manhattan Theater Club in New York City in June of 2023. And then, so that's June of 2023, right? Now we are within only about a year and a half. I guess 2 years because it's summer 2025 now. So we're 2 years ago. Here's productions from 2 years ago to now. 24 months. Here we go. The Old Globe Theater in San Diego in spring 2024. The Wasatch Theater Company in Utah, summer 2024. Theater Works Silicon Valley, fall 2024. Also fall 2024. Forward Theater in Madison, Wisconsin. Hampstead Theater in winter 2024-25. That's in London premiere of the show. Theater Aquarius in fall 2025. That should be fall 2024 in Ontario. In January and February of 25 at the Northern Stage in Vermont. And January through March 25, it's Theater Works Hartford. February through March of that year, Syracuse Stage in a co-production with Indiana Repertory Theater, the Vortex Theater in Albuquerque that spring in 2025, the George Street Playhouse in New Jersey that spring, the City Theater in Pittsburgh that spring, NC Stage in Asheville that spring, Cleveland Playhouse in a co-production with the City Theater Company that spring, this past summer 2025, Roundhouse Theater outside DC, Capitol Stage in Sacramento, and next spring, if you are anywhere near Salt Lake City, you can see this play spring 2026, March through April, the Pioneer Theater Company in Salt Lake City. So, I mean, this play is only 3 years old or so. World premiere in 2022, and especially since fall 24 has really, really blown up. I mean, that is a lot of regional professional houses to be doing this play at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that's almost like kind of wildfire hearing about it. Sort of like it's all over the place. You could see it in a lot of different places. Yeah,
and the play ended up getting nominated for the 2024 Outer Critics Circle Award for Outstanding New Off-Broadway Play. It is, I think it's eminently producible, and that may be part of it. It is in some way an investigation of race and privilege, which is a conversation certainly going on in America, but it does so in a really kind of funny, personable, energetic way. So that certainly may be part of it. It's a really unique subject for theater. It's certainly not the only sports play in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but plays which really embrace sports culture as like meaningful and serious part of life are not like, they're not widespread, I would say.
Yeah.
They're not always, but they tend to be kind of different circles. Those of us who are both massive sports fans and massive theater people, there's not a lot of us that find that, crazy overlap. So for its kind of unique subject matter, its investigation, and its producibility, two-hander, it's 2 box sets, that I think, interestingly, can kind of share a lot between them. I mean, I think that a lot of that has to do with it. And it's also just like great. And I think it's, it's just like a really good psychological realism, deep character study kind of play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all that is right on as far as like why it's being produced. It's also got that like in that sort of like content section, it's in that sweet spot of like this happened within everyone's memory or many people's memory.
Oh, good point. Yes.
And it was big enough that, even someone who didn't follow heard something about people being angry about it. Yeah, the decisions. And then also it's like, we're now like almost 10-ish years from the last event of this play. So it's sort of in that sweet spot of like, we all sort of remember something about this and we have some time to reflect on it now. So I think that's part of it too.
And like, even if you didn't know the plot points of this part of LeBron James' career, these tracking plot points, you know who LeBron James is.
Right.
So the minute you see King James and you see that the marketing for the show is around basketball, LeBron James is the closest we have in this country to like real massive level sports celebrity. Now that sounds insane to say because LeBron James is a massive level sports celebrity. Right off the bat, I would tell you, he's nothing at all like massive soccer stars in the broader international world. He doesn't come close to guys like that in terms of international fame, but LeBron James is like American royalty in a way that people like Beyonce and Taylor Swift are, that Patrick Mahomes is becoming, right? So we don't have like writing a play about the UK royal family. People are going to know the things that go on because those are massive icons in that culture. And in America, we don't have a royal family, but we do have these celebrities that transcend just their field, right? If you don't follow basketball at all, the only basketball player you may know would be LeBron James, maybe Steph Curry too, right? But like, there is a level of celebrity you get to that goes outside of your field. And LeBron James has reached that.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So that like sort of meta aspect is one of the big things of this play, is this sort of very well-known moment, very well-known person influencing the events of this play in some way. I'm going to give us just a short summary just to get us started here. As always, I'll try to keep this as short as possible as we jump in here so we can get talking about the play. But this play takes place over the course of, I'll correct myself, 12 years, 2004 to 2016, and it takes place in 4 acts over that time frame in the city of Cleveland Heights, Ohio. It centers on 2 characters. I'll read you their characters' descriptions here real quick. It's just Sean, black, and he ages 21, 27, 31, and 33. And then there's Matt, who is white, and also ages 21, 27, 31, and 33 throughout the time of this play. The first act of this play takes place in La Cave du Vin, which is a wine bar that Matt works at. He is 21 and he is trying to, both be a bartender at this wine bar place and develop his taste of wine. And then he's also got these tickets that he's trying to sell. This is the year that LeBron joins the Cleveland Heat.
Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah.
The Miami Heat. Yes, 2 different teams, but they both factor in prominently.
Yes, for sure. Thank you. We are displaying what my level of sports following is. The Cleveland Cavaliers. This is the year that LeBron James is joining that. And so Sean has these season tickets, which we find out later are pretty laden with nostalgia for him. They're his dad's tickets that he's gone to these games his whole life. Season tickets for the rest of the year. And he's trying to sell them all in a batch because he has some debts that he needs to pay. And that's where Sean comes in. Sean enters and is wanting to buy the tickets. He doesn't really know the price that Matt is selling them for. Again, this is in 2004, so Matt has a Razor phone and doesn't know how to text. And so this this first interaction is like, how much are you selling the tickets for? And there's this negotiation back and forth. Matt sort of has this other buyer that he uses to play off of Sean, but we find out a lot that they are a lot about these two and that they're actually connected in more ways than they expect that they maybe would be. Matt is sort of like dressed as this sort of like frumpy person trying to be high class, and Sean shows up kind of dressed preppily, I think is the stage direction for him. So you kind of get the sense that they're from 2 different worlds as they're negotiating this moment. Sean is like working for a law firm in addition to washing dishes and also writing on the side, and he's here to buy these tickets because he's just had a kind of a awesome moment for himself where one of his stories that he's written, like again kind of his third job that he does as a passion project, one of his stories was bought by someone. And he was like, well, maybe in this moment I'm going to go buy these tickets because it's something he always promised himself to do. He's never been able to go to a game and get good tickets for the Cavaliers kind of close to the game. So shows up tries to buy the tickets. Eventually, through this scene, long story short, they negotiate over the tickets, and they also discover more and more about themselves that they actually knew, are within one circle of each other, kind of have rubbed shoulders throughout their lives, and within one degree of separation from each other. To the degree that Sean actually knows Matt's parents' shop, that Matt kind of is resisting joining. He's trying to find his own way, trying to start a restaurant. Some of the debts that he have are around trying to start a restaurant with some friends. So they discover a lot of connection over themselves. The big beat at the end of this scene, though, is Sean eventually gets the tickets, and he's starting to walk away. He's asking Matt for advice, and he's like, who should I take? And Matt's like, you don't have anyone take? You bought 2 tickets for the whole season. Like, what were you thinking you were gonna do? Cliffhanger. Turns out that we assume that Sean eventually invites Matt to these games. In 2010, we jump to the next scene, or rather, we jump to the next scene, which is in 2010. And this is the moment that LeBron announces that he's leaving Cleveland. And so they are sort of up in arms this night. They're still at the wine club. They're angry in various degrees at LeBron leaving, and they kind of like have a debate over whether it was appropriate or not. Is it good that he's leaving? Matt kind of lands on the field of like, there's bigger problems in the world. Why does it matter that, sure, whatever, he's leaving. Sean is a little bit more angry about it, eventually like takes off his jersey and throws it on the ground. And so they're kind of having that sort of a conversation together. However, underneath it is this next level negotiation, again, around tickets and whether they're going to buy next season's tickets together or not. As we discover that for the last 6 years, they've been doing so. And so they kind of negotiate that. It goes around a little bit, but we discover that Sean has actually gotten into a pretty, exclusive writers grad school in New York, and that his story has been submitted and accepted, and he's going to actually go next year to New York. And this kind of big news drops out of sort of almost nowhere for Matt, at least.
And he's transitioned writing forms too. At the first scene we learned that he was writing short stories. That's what he sold. We now learn that he's switched to writing screenplays, and that he's gotten into this screenwriting program. And that perks Matt's ear, because not only did he not know that his really good friend now, we'll talk about the way in which their friendship grows, I'm sure. But now, to this 6 years later, they become very, very good friends. But Matt didn't know that Sean was applying to this program, didn't know that he had gotten accepted, didn't even, in fact, know that Sean had transitioned from writing short stories to screenplays, which prompts these questions about, why haven't you told me these things? I tell you things. We also learn that they've become good enough friends that Sean and Matt went to visit Matt's father as he was dying in the hospital many times together, that Sean and Matt's mother talk a lot privately. And we learned that Sean went to see Matt's dad without Matt there, and that Sean told both of Matt's parents about the grad school program independently of Matt. And so there's this burgeoning sort of complicated relationship amongst, friendship between Sean, not burgeoning friendship, but burgeoning complications in that friendship.
Yeah, and the one that's going to pay off in the next scene is this weird sort of weirdness, I guess. We could, maybe it's subjective how weird it is, but this weirdness of Sean knowing Matt's parents sometimes more than Matt does. So that continues. This scene sort of eventually builds to this sort of well, we got to hang out before you leave, sort of the shock of when a close friend is leaving suddenly, and you're like, well, we got to hang out before you leave. Don't worry, I'm not leaving for 2 months, but we're not getting tickets together next season.
And, probably you can already start to see some of what Rajiv Joseph is doing in the scene that they have LeBron James departing Cleveland and very much feeling like the city, he's betrayed the city of Cleveland to go play for this championship aspiring team. Sean is leaving Matt in Cleveland to go to New York City to pursue his particular dream and desire. You may already start to see some of how the meta cultural conversation and the friendship conversation is being tied together.
Absolutely. So then the next scene is Act 3, and we jump ahead 4 more years. So this is after the grad school has ended for Sean, and we pick up the scene with him working in Matt's parents' upholstery shop called Armand's Upholstery, and this is the kind of other set, the other setting for the play. And he's working there as he tries to figure out how to get into LA and how to get his writing off to a good start. Matt enters the scene having sort of, for a moment, had some good success with his restaurant. His partners have the restaurant going. It's up and running. He has some money to spare. He's kind of, dressed pretty snazzily. Seems very busy. He's on his phone all the time. And that is kind of contrasted by where Sean is at the moment, which is Sean is trying to get out to LA. Again, they're in Cleveland. It's a long way. And he's trying to get out to LA for these meetings. And it becomes clear that he's been depending on some generosity from both Matt and Matt's family to continue to pursue this, and that there's been some sort of some support given to him from Matt's family as he tries to get plane rides out there or flights out there. It becomes clear in the course of this conversation that where he was going to stay has fallen through, because he was going to stay with a girlfriend, but she saw that he was with another girlfriend on Instagram, and so that sort of fell out. And so now he's looking for a hotel to stay in, and Matt offers to kind of find a hotel for him to stay at out there. And partway through this conversation, the next LeBron stage emerges, which is LeBron makes the announcement that he's coming back to Cleveland. He's gonna join the team again, and they get kind of all these notifications on their phone. And that kind of cues an argument between them, as Sean is pretty excited about the fact that LeBron is coming back and the potential that it could mean for a kind of a championship attempt this coming year, while Matt sort of is like, "Oh man, here we go. This is the problem with America." He says a couple of kind of cliches throughout this as he sort of like rails against that, but the big one that he lands on that leads to a pretty significant fight between them is he says the line, "He should have known his place." Well, yeah, big oof. And that is registered by Sean, and they kind of go back and forth on this as Sean is like, "What do you mean by that? What exactly are you trying to say?" And that eventually devolves into Matt calling him, saying that Sean is calling him a racist, and they have this kind of back and forth that eventually leads to enough pain in this argument that Matt sort of rescinds his offer to help Sean go out to LA. Whether or not that actually happens, we're not exactly sure. The scene ends with him saying, though, that "You don't need my help, fine. I'm not going to help you get out to LA." The play then advances, just to get us through the summary here so we can jump into the content of this play. We advance to 2016. Both characters are 33. Scene starts. Again, we're in the upholstery shop. Matt is now working in the upholstery shop, kind of doing an everything must go sort of sale. The shop is finally closing. And Sean comes back, seemingly again dressed pretty effortlessly snazzy. I think was something along those lines. Having done well for himself in LA. And whatever happened as a result of the argument last time, he's managed to transcend that, get out to LA, and he's now writing on a pretty regular serialized TV show that everyone knows about. Notably, what has just happened in the story of LeBron's journey with Cleveland is the championship was just won. It's 2016. They just won the championship, and that parade for that win is happening in downtown Cleveland today. And so they come back and they kind of deal with they have this long conversation about the pain of what their last interaction was. But then what emerges is that they both continued, despite the fact that Matt especially says, "No, I haven't been following the games." They've both been following the games. They both reached out a couple times in sort of awkward ways to each other over the years to try to fix it in some way. But notably, Sean went to the game and brought a ticket back from that game to either show or give to Matt. But noticed halfway through the game that he sort of yelled out to Matt, like, "Matt, look at that!" And Matt wasn't there. And so there's sort of this like rekindling and acknowledgement of this friendship that hasn't been there, at least for the last 2 years or whatever. And is there a way for us to kind of find that friendship again? Scene ends with this negotiation over whether to go to the parade together or not, and Matt's like, I don't really know if I want to go to the parade, and so they end up playing for it with kind of trash basketball, with a bit of a rolled up paper and a wastebasket, which has been a motif throughout the play, and they kind of the scene ends with them playing this game of basketball together over whether or not to go to the parade or not.
Yeah, and in that final scene too, Matt's restaurant has fallen apart. And the money of that has gone away. He is now working for his parents at the shop, but they're actually selling the shop. So major changes in Matt's life as well, even as Sean has found success as a screenwriter. You know, what's so great about Rajiv Joseph is you think about some of his other plays, Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo, Guards at the Taj. These are weird plays with these awesome, strange theatrical elements. They are, you know, the Talking Tiger, the Sea of Blood in Guards at the Taj. And then you have also, he has more long-term relationship, friendship plays that are closer to this one. A play like Gruesome Playground Injuries, which tracks a close friendship over time. And this is closer to that, but Gruesome Playground Injuries jumps around in time, is sort of the feature of that conversation. This play is 4 scenes, each scene years apart, tracking this one friendship in a linear fashion over the course of time. I'm hesitant because this sounds maybe sort of derogative, and I really don't mean it this way, but it's a nice little story. It's a nice,
yeah.
You know, I mean, it reflects on major important things, but it's also like, it's a story of like loneliness and finding friendship and, you know, the particular way that like men make friends in and around the culture of sports.
Yeah. The way that this play delivers on the fondness of friendship, especially friendships that are sort of feel maybe necessarily built around talking about sports. But the way that talking about sports is actually talking about something else, and talking about the kind of other events that are happening under the water, I think is just, I think this play does that really, really well, about like clear, and occasionally quite clearly, you're like, oof, that's the way Matt feels about Sean right now, or vice versa. That's the way Sean is feeling towards Matt. But they're talking about LeBron and they're talking about the Cavs. So it's like, it weaves that together really, really well.
Yeah, you think about the first image and the last image of this play, because the marketing of it is going to lean in heavily to the LeBron James aspect, because that's a really graspable marketing strategy, and it's titled for that, as we've already discussed. But if you want to know what this play is really about, you look at the first image and the last image. And the first image of the play is Mark playing basketball with rubbish. So you called it trash basketball. There's always a little bit like, that doesn't mean bad basketball. It means like basketball with trash.
Yeah.
So, you know, Mark playing trash basketball by himself, pretending that someone is there to guard him, trying to shoot and missing and all that, yada, yada, yada. And then the last image, the two of them playing trash basketball one-on-one together. I mean, if you're looking to figure out what this play is really about, that's what it's really about. The movement from the loneliness of the beginning of the play, and the friendship that they find. And that friendship has ups and downs, obviously. It's not a exactly progression from loneliness to friendship. Yay, that's perfect. That, of course, would be the most boring story in the world. But the beginning image playing by oneself, the ending image playing together, that's to me clear.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's reinforced consistently. I like this theme of loneliness being negotiated in this play, because you kind of go on this pretty frequent roller coaster in this play of like, you start in loneliness, you start in awkwardness of the two of them. Like, Matt is not very good at wine. And Sean comes in and he's not really good at knowing what the tickets are good
Sean
for.
comes in and he doesn't drink either. I found that
he doesn't drink either. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And so you have that scene with the Matt playing basketball by himself alone. You have a really poignant moment at the end of the second scene where he again returns to playing basketball by himself, but he's doing it with LeBron's jersey that Sean has taken off partway through the scene. And so that I feel like that gut punch of that scene pays off so well when we we don't have a basketball-ish scene in scene 3, but it comes back around in 4, and there's just this great like, oh, so good to see them playing together by the end of it.
Yeah, and it's not like, the question of whether or not they're going to go to the parade together isn't like resolved necessarily, although I think, my feeling is probably yes, but that's not really that's a good indication of like where the broader conversation about LeBron James and basketball and the championship and the parade and stuff is not really the point, because what they've worked through is this, whatever has come between them, that has been coming between them consistently in the play. The accusation at the end of scene 3, where their friendship is really starting to tear apart, of racism and privilege and things that they're negotiating, they're strong feelings they're going back and forth about. And one of the things that Mark says is like, we've been best friends for all these years, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're accusing me of this. And Sean's response to that is that nothing is out of nowhere. And I think that, this is the kind of play, all plays, yes, of course, yes. But this play especially, the multiple readings or multiple seeings really benefits it, because you can really see what Rajiv Joseph is setting up, and that you see where those points of conflict are in the little bits that we see.
And it's nice too, like the multiple watches of it or multiple productions of it. Like there's so much that these characters are sort of like have the opportunity to be negotiating over, that seeing one or the other highlighted would be really interesting. Certainly this like the relationship between them in the sport is really interesting, and whether or not one or the other is like a true fan is negotiated frequently, but also like the way that money comes between them is a really interesting, like throughout their first 3 scenes together, money is a big deal. And it's consistently a big deal. The first scene is negotiating about the price of the tickets and whether or not Matt can get what he needs to come out of debt for, and Sean can buy these tickets with the little bit that he got from his stories to kind of realize his dream or not. The second scene, it's clear that they've helped each other out with buying season tickets on and off over the years. But now that this new path in life is going forward, they're not going to be able to do that anymore. That there isn't going to be that sort of camaraderie around the tickets. In fact, we find that Matt sort of starts to drop off in his following of the Cavs from that scene on. And then, of course,
money from scene 2 is that Sean's decision to go to this grad program in New York is going to put him pretty significantly in debt, and it's the path forward to getting what he wants, so he thinks, and yet it is going to come at this pretty significant financial cost.
Yeah. Yep. And there's like a car involved in there that was given to Sean, or given for a very low cost from Matt's family. And then of course scene 3 with the tickets and the trips out. That's the obvious one. So there's kind of this a tension that I think is a really common tension in friendships, and cool to see it on stage. Is this like, we're doing life together and we're helping each other out all the time, but like, how does money play into that? How does like our relationship get affected by helping each other out and money getting in the way of friendship? And so like, if that's the zoom in of this play, that's a really compelling thing to go and watch.
Yeah, well, and you think about the way that first scene. So the first scene I just think is such great scene writing because they're at the center of it is this money negotiation, right? As you said, about what are the tickets going to cost? Am I going to buy them or not? And the characters playing all these multiple different tactics to try to sway one another, their emotional tactics, pressuring tactics, nostalgic tactics about the team. And out of it comes, just because the writing is so good, you get great exposition. You get these great windows into what's going on in the characters' lives. The fact that Sean has just sold this story, what the story ends up being is a story about a kid whose sister leaves to go to college and the loneliness of being, left behind by the family. And that, being able to so cleverly get woven in among these tactics that sets up a broader conversation about the difference between being lonely and being alone.
Yes.
Which the two men, they have very different senses of in that first scene.
Yeah, that little line in there is one of my favorite lines in the whole play, and it's kind of it is one of the themes that's being negotiated, so it's not a one-off, but it is sort of like this brief moment of like, oh my goodness, that's such a profound statement. Matt says something like, aren't loneliness and being alone the same? And Sean's like, no, they're completely different things. And it's like, oof, that's really poignant. And then they move on to talking about the tickets again or something like that. So it's like, I love that line in particular.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And then scene 2, I think, too, is so smart in its deploying of the LeBron story alongside Sean's story, because so much of their friendship has grown between scene 1 and scene 2. I mean, between 1, where they're essentially strangers, and scene 2, they've been going to games for, it's a 6-year gap. But it's also like the personal part of their friendship has grown. As we've discussed, they're visiting Matt's dad together in the hospital. Sean is going to Matt's mom to discuss this plan of moving to New York and going to grad school. They know, that they're just constant, fast friends that have really grown together. And so then what do you do when that kind of person in your life just leaves? And there's this great little snippet of that scene where they're discussing like what the plan, like why Sean would do this and what the plan is. And it kind of comes to Mark that like, and Mark then pitches this back to Sean, like, isn't the best case scenario that you move away and never come back? That you move to New York City and then move to Los Angeles, and isn't in fact the thing that we're hoping for. Like, if I'm excited for you, isn't the thing that I'm excited about that you move away and never come back?
Yeah.
And how does that fit in with me? And where in these close knit relationships, this is a great like negotiation of relationship. Like, how can I support you in a way that someone who cares for you should support you, while knowing that supporting that, being positive about that, means that the best version of that is that I'll never see you again, or you won't ever live here again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That and I think that sort of unsaid thing is, I think a lot of some of the pain that gets carried into scene 3 that slowly gets sort of sussed out. I think and is directly called out by Sean eventually in I'm forgetting if it's 3 or 4, but somewhere in one of the scenes it eventually is finally said by Sean, I think you felt that way about me when I left, that the same way that you're not talking about LeBron leaving and coming back. And so I think that, I mean, and somewhat, and in a somewhat, real life sort of situation, that's years later from the time that it was originally there. So I think oftentimes when we jump this much in time and when this much time is covered, not oftentimes, but the danger of jumping around this much time is that you lose threads like that. That you lose unity, that you lose kind of consistency with these characters. And in this case, it really... Joseph has really made that the necessary thing to draw out these themes. Time passes, and only with this time passed can these characters truly engage with either the pain or the things that are so locked away that they don't even know are there with each other.
And the other thing that is only possible with this much time passing is that their careers and life circumstances change. And I think that is one of the investigations or the questions that the play is looking at, is this not just friendship and not just close friendship and not just friendship around sports, but friendship in major life changes. Because to be friends with someone in that intimate way over long periods of time, your life circumstances are going to change. And how does your power dynamics, your intimacy and your vulnerability account for those massive changes in fortune? And where does selfishness play in? And where does what's better for you versus better for me play in. And that, I think, is the particular brilliance of bringing in the LeBron story. And Mark makes this metaphor, partway through the play. It's not unique to this play, but the idea that LeBron and the city of Cleveland, have this relationship. When LeBron chooses to leave Cleveland to go Miami, it's like he's dumped, a particular person he's been dating for a much more attractive, or younger or whatever, that, the feeling of being left for something better is how Mark puts it. Whereas Sean, in a later scene, describes it very differently. He describes LeBron being willing to go to make sacrifices, make hard choices to go and get the thing that he wants for his life. And this is, I think, that core difference in understanding of the LeBron decision, different ways to interpret it, is a really nice, it's a character building thing, but it also centralizes the conflict. Like, what does it take to go and get the thing that you want? And what is that going to do for your relationships? Where does your obligation in your relationships lie? I mean, for best friend, for these best friends, what obligations do you have to each other versus to your dream for your life?
Yeah, and I like too that this play is not afraid to sort of leave the meta behind when the like story needs it as well, because I think in addition to, like, it tracks that for so much of the play, like 3 acts of the play is like right alongside with the LeBron storyline of that tension of like chase your dreams, do what's best for you, do what's best for the community, how do those interact. That ends, of course, with, championship game, and LeBron comes back and the championship happens, etc. And there's this lovely moment prior to the end of the play where you kind of realize that both Matt and Sean have gotten have experienced a win that is followed by a loss in some way. Matt experiences this win with, like, eventually he managed to, like, get this restaurant going and it was great for a time, but it eventually falls apart and crashes, isn't as big as it could have been, and has to sell everything, and now he's back working at his folks' store. Sean talks about, like, he did get the jobs in Hollywood and he is writing for a serialized TV show. Success has occurred for him, and as much as a writer can hope for success in that kind of TV writing world at this moment in his career. But he notices that his voice is not as welcome in that group as he wishes that it could be. He notes that, especially him being in a room with 5 other white writers, that he's been kind of pushed to the outside consistently in those conversations. And so you have the two of them in this moment where actually they've lost quite a bit. And to come out of that loss, as juxtaposed with the win that LeBron has gone and brought to Cleveland in that last scene, I think is a great little, like, A, juxtaposition, B, divergence from the meta plot to be like, and here's the heart. Here's the thing that is also happening underneath that big meta plot.
Yeah, well, and the championship parade being the backdrop, right? This, like, LeBron comes back, finally brings the championship. But I think you are right that is where the plot's tightly heldness to the beats of the LeBron story, the tying of those two things together, diverges just a little bit, because LeBron and the city of Cleveland, which are, I guess, in the metaphor of the play, a metaphor for the friendship of these two guys, they both, LeBron and the city of Cleveland both succeed. They win, and in the real life story, they beat the seemingly unbeatable Golden State Warriors. They come back from 3-1. It's this whole thing. It's a major point of NBA history. And I don't know that for Sean or Mark or their relationship together, that kind of like mutual success is quite where we've landed. And so that is, maybe recentering the story then on where we can find the sort of victory in their themness, their like andness.
Yeah. I feel like that last game at the end feels so rejoiceful, or has the opportunity to, at least in my reading of it, it did feel that way. So I think that, like, that sort of winds up being the win at the end, that they've managed to find a way back together after all these years.
Yeah, and just beyond too the misfortunes and fortunes of career, the other thing that really changed about the guys over tracking friendship over this much time, like, their opinions changed, their sense of things changed. We already mentioned, like, Chris doesn't drink in scene 1. In the scene 2, there's this wine bar, and Sean is asking him to get more bottles of wine. Matt's kind of relationship with sports over the course of time changes. They have these great going back and forth about LeBron versus MJ. Their fortunes on that reverse over the course of the play. So those kinds of things are really great to track because they are only trackable in a play that takes place over this much time. So content and form are sort of benefiting each other in that way. I have two sort of ponderings that I don't know what to make of. The change in set for me is a kind of curious and pondering one, because it's not that each scene has its own set. The first two are in that lower wine bar, this sort of cathedral, used to be a church wine bar. And the second half of the play is all set in this antiques and curiosities shop that Mark's parents own. So that's interesting to me. Why we change locations halfway through, what that does. So I'm pondering about that.
Yeah, no, I would be interested to hear, or interested to do or hear a set designer's sort of like treatise on that, because I think there's the opportunity for there to be, this movement from like sort of stained glass to clutter. And I don't know exactly what that is. There's the great reveal partway through the upholstery and oddities shop that the kind of a large globe is in fact also a bar. So you kind of have the unified theme between the two. That they're both a bar in a way, which is kind of nice.
I think one video I saw where they were playing that basketball game at the end, the globe was the thing they were using as the basket. Which, of course,
nice.
Really brings that in. That's nice.
Yeah, for sure. I think I do. Certainly, I am grateful as a former set designer and as someone who would like to be doing plays again to have just 2 sets and they change on the act break. So that's cool. But
it's certainly there's certainly practical, like, if you're going to have 4 sets, they're all going to be rendered less fully and realistically just by virtue of practicality. So 2 big realistic box set is more possible than 4, I guess. But, they're all like Matt power locations in some way, right? Like Matt is the employee at the wine bar in the whole first half of the play. It's like he's not the owner or anything, but in terms of their relationship, Sean is only at the wine bar because of Matt. Matt's the one with the keys and et cetera. And the second half of the play is all set in Matt's parents' store. Now, there's great reversals within all of that. Sean being the one to want the wine in the second scene. Sean works at Matt's parents' store and is closer to Matt's parents in scene 3. Then when he comes back in scene 4, Matt's the one working there. So Rajiv Joseph does a great job in setting something and then playing on that thing by reversing it. It's one of his really great skills as a kind of builder of visual imagery. But it is... for the play being, we haven't talked about this much either, but just to pull it in, the play in this 4 scenes is kind of loosely designed to replicate the 4 quarters of a basketball game. And so for that metaphor, the 2 scenes, the 2 locations puzzle me a little bit. Is it maybe, I guess, and I'm thinking basketball, like in basketball game at halftime, you switch sides of the court. There's something like in that.
I like that for sure. It's interesting still with them both being Matt's spaces.
He's the home team, I guess.
He's the home team. Right. There you go. Nice. There we go. We solved it. Nice work.
Well, this play is super fun. We didn't talk at all because it's not really part of the script, but the play is typically performed with a DJ to do live music and bring in sort of that kind of being at a game element of the vibe and the music and the dance and the party of it all. The characters are, big opinions, great dialogue between them. Again, some of the scene writing is just as great as it gets. It's just a really great play, great two-hander kind of a script about, at least for me, a very fun subject.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course our conversation always sort of focuses on plot and character arc and things like that. This play is like uber funny. And just like a general good time. The characters are both down to earth, but also sort of sometimes a little over the top, and it's great. Just in the reading of it alone, I was laughing a lot. And as we sort of mentioned at the top of this play, this is about such like a common thing that I imagine friends of yours who could be invited to a play who perhaps don't always go to a play would like this play. So I imagine it is quite well received by folks who maybe don't go to the theater as often, as well as people who do go to plays and enjoy the act of going to theater. So if you have the chance to see this show, interact with this show, be in this show, bring friends to this show, and you want a space in which to have a conversation about it, we'd love to continue the conversation about this play with you. You can find us on the socials. We are on at the username @NoScriptPodcast. We also have a Gmail, noscriptpodcast@gmail.com. Find us on any of those sites or on Patreon, and we'd love to keep talking about King James with you.
If you enjoyed this conversation or any of the conversations in our season so far, or our 14 other seasons you can find online, please recommend us to your family, your friends, anybody you know that likes conversations about theater, writing, things like that. Send them our way. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all the places you get your podcasts. You can also like our Facebook page, where a link to the new episode appears every Monday when we publish another great conversation about a great script. Until then, I'm Jacob here with Jackson. Thanks for joining us for No Script, the podcast.